Say I'm still
Well, I heard
your
that song
fella.
too.
Cause I'm lonesome,
That's the song he started his radio show.
There you go. That's my song.
cause I haven't been myself since you said goodbye to me. Yes, I
Everything y'all
wrote
say,
my
you make
gal a
that
letter,
everybody
and
do
this is
something.
what I had to see.
Everybody relax.
Yes, I
Talk, y'all have
wrote
to get
my
out here
gal a
closer.
letter, and this is what I had to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We're getting ready for another good show. I guarantee you this is the best show we ever had on MPLStudio13.com coming right to you. We got some fabulous individuals, some of the finest folks you ever met in your life have been out here. They're going to talk about a legend in our time. So sit back, relax, get you up a nail keg, slop bucket, or a chicken coop, set on, get comfortable, because we're going to talk here in a few minutes. Now, go on, Ravens, talk to me.
Since you went away, when you were here with me, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We got some fine folks here. I'm going to surprise you. It ain't nobody going to believe we ever pulled this stunt off. I mean, they bombed Hiroshima and got away with it, tried to, but I done bombed Millington, Tennessee with all production copyrighted by MPL Studio 13. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we try to do is go out here and find some talent, whether you can sing or dance, play the guitar, or whether you're good at frog gigging. We want to get you on the show and expose you a little bit. But I got some fine folks right here. Okay, tell me who you are right here.
Jerry Phillips.
Jerry Phillips, all right?
And this is Randy Phillips.
And this is Randy Phillips. All right, we got Jerry and Randy Phillips. Now, I got one for you that's just going to knock you off your seat. These are Dewey Phillips, the one and only, the greatest disc jockey in the world. These are his kids right here. And they were gracious and kind enough to take time out of their busy day to talk to us about history of music of the Mid-South, Memphis, and everybody that grew up on the music that we live by and love today. So thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming down here today.
Appreciate you having us.
And
Thank you.
we're gonna listen to this. This show goes on the World Wide Web. It just don't go around the Millington area, around Alamo, or down Cordova, around there. It goes all over. We got people listening in Beijing, China. Peter Wang's over there, and Deb and Steve are up in Wisconsin, and Chuck and Dawn up there in Blacksburg, Virginia, listening to us. They scattered all over. But ladies and gentlemen, if you to kind of jog your memory on why these kids are so important, why they're here to help us relive the greatest part of everybody that's 60 or 70 years old, is because their daddy was the disc jockey that first played Elvis's record. The first played. So how in the world can you ever accomplish something like this? What does that mean to you when somebody walks up to you, Jerry, and pokes you on the shoulder and said, I heard that first record?
That's really makes us proud that even today, he's been gone since 1968, that people still remember him, and he's getting a lot of recognition here the last few years, and we just appreciate it.
Well, that's good, Randy.
Well, that's, it really makes me feel good that people remember him too, like that. And I'm also glad to see that he's getting a lot of recognition that he, hasn't gotten in a long time. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's now, Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, you got to understand that these people have never seen you. Matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you the truth. I've never seen either one of these boys. I've been delighted and that they were gracious enough and kind enough to take the time to come down here and share with us the memories of their legendary daddy. And Jerry, where do you live now?
Alamo, Tennessee.
Okay, where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Memphis through the 5th grade, and then we moved to Alamo as my mother and father separated.
Okay. All right.
I live here in town in Memphis. Of course, I moved in the 7th grade. We all moved to Alamo, Tennessee, and I graduated high school in Alamo, came back and graduated from what was then Memphis State University.
Okay.
And stayed here in Memphis, taught school for 38 years.
Where'd you teach?
I taught at Briarcrest High School here in town.
Okay. All 38 years, huh?
Yes, sir, all 38.
Okay, well, You taught a little famous girl from Millington, Tennessee then, didn't you?
I sure did. Serena Wages?
Yeah,
I
Serena.
Sure did.
Everybody in Millington's so proud of her and her family and everybody involved, and she's beautiful on the outside, but she's even more beautiful on the inside. And her big brother, you know, he's quite a fine gentleman. But you know, they had good mom and daddy raise them, picked on what we call country, good stock.
That's
So,
true.
but how long have you been up in Alamo, Jerry?
12 years
Have you?
since I retired from the Lawn and Hyde Grocery Company.
Oh, did you? So what are you doing now?
I work in a small grocery store about
Oh, do you?
4 days a week. Just
Okay. Well, that's good. Now, this is, like I say, going all over the world, and we're going to tell you a lot about a legend. And so I guess a good starting place is, Jerry, where was your daddy born?
He was born in Adamsville, Tennessee.
Okay, now Randy, for somebody in, say, in Arizona has never heard of Adamsville, where would that be located?
Well, it's located in southwest Tennessee, just west of the Tennessee River.
Okay,
Selma was
About-
free for push.
it's about, what, 100 miles, 125 miles, what would you say, east of Memphis?
I'd say about 100 miles.
Okay, so that's where he was born there, and so. Well, what about your mama? Where was she born?
She was born in Alamo, Tennessee, or the outskirts of Alamo.
Alamo. What was her name now?
Dorothy Garrett.
Dorothy. Okay. All right. Now, did he? Where'd he go? Where's your daddy? Where'd he go to high school?
He went to Adamsville High School.
He graduated from Adamsville, and then. Well, where did he meet? How did your mom and daddy get connected there, Randy?
Well, this is Jerry, but after
Jerry.
after Daddy got out of the Army, his family had already moved to Memphis, and he came back to Memphis, and he started out working at the Tasty Bread Company.
Okay.
And he was quite comical before he ever got on the radio, because he made loaves of bread and shaped them like gingerbread men, and baked a few bundles of that, and they let him go. And then he went to work at W.T. Grant's department store on Main Street in Memphis, and he ran the record department there. And my mother worked for her uncle at Barnes Clothing Store that was actually right down the street. And they met at a little cafe where they both ate lunch, and they started eating lunch together, and then it turned into eating supper together, and then they got married in 48.
Was that right? 48.
48.
How long?
1948.
How long was your daddy in the military?
2 years.
2 years, and that's when he got out after 2 years, and then moved. Was in Memphis then.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, let's do, boys. The first record that your daddy played for Elvis, I just happened to have it here, and ladies and
It's
gentlemen,
all right.
yeah, I guarantee you it's all right. But one thing about it, these old records, they're scratchy and they're hissy and they're old, but they are the genuine thing, and there's not any of that cleaned up stuff with time and all that. So I tell you what, let's do. Let's just have Elvis do a little singing for us here, and your daddy's the one that played the very first one, right? We're gonna play a little Elvis song here called "That's All Right." Dewey's the first one ever played this.
That's all right, Mama. That's all right.
We're talking about the legendary Dewey Phillips. Now we'll talk about the legendary Dr. George Flynn. That's right.
That's all right. That's all right, Mama. Anyway, do. Well, Mama, she done told me. Papa done told me too. Son, that guy you fooling with, she ain't no good for you. But that's all right. That's all right. That's all right, Mama. Anyway, do. I'm leaving town, baby. I'm leaving town to show. Well, then you won't be bothered with me hanging round your Dee, I need your loving. That's all right. That's all right, now, mama, any way you do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all right there, by Elvis. That's the one that the legendary Dewey Phillips he was the first disc jockey to play at Elvis, and I say it right here where everybody all over this world can have it. If it hadn't have been for Dewey Phillips, there wouldn't have been no Elvis Presley. Now, y'all take that to the bank, as far as I'm concerned. Well, anyway, I'm talking to these two kids right here. Well, they ain't a whole lot younger than me, but anyway, a little younger. So, anyway, we got some questions now. You know, the thing about it, when your daddy growing up in that rural area over there at Adamsville, and Crump and all that around there, about the only kind of music he'd get was country music.
That's correct. That's
Well,
what he listened
you know, and the reception wouldn't have been good at night. It'd been just good basically daytime, so it was all country music.
That's right.
And I hadn't been able to get too many people to tell me that his love for the blues music, black music, and one thing and another, where he came into loving that. And y'all enlighten anybody about that, what your mama said, or anybody?
Well, actually, when he started falling in love with the blues music, it's when he was running that record department at W.T. Grant's, and that's what he played.
Yeah.
Because they had they had black section and they had a white section.
Yeah.
Well, Dewey would play those blues records and get all the black would come up there and buy records from him. Then the whites are coming by, and the Pat Boones and all that stuff at that time. And he just fell in love with it. And Bill Street was just right down the corner. And he started going up and down Bill Street to those clubs. And the people down there, they learned of him from that records department, because it had a microphone, and he was like doing his radio show before he ever got on the radio.
Well, that's the first time, ladies and gentlemen, I ever heard it explained like that. I've heard everything, I've talked to everybody, but that's the first time that I ever heard there was a blues section and also a country section, I guess is what you say right there. So that's some great information right there to go out all over the airways. So, but all the, I think back then, another thing too is you had everybody went to church. And they had all kinds of music, and I think that everybody has finally decided, accepted the fact that all of your music came out of your churches. And that's, you know, your soulful churches, and you had the greatest singing in the world coming out of your churches. But where did y'all go to church? Well, it's been, what, in Alamo, right?
Well, we have a little church out in the country where I live that we kind of grew up in from teen years on up through high school, but we went to Methodist Church on Macon Road when we lived in Memphis.
And all the singing, but I know that history tells us that all the music that your daddy was so famous for were actually derived from your gospel singing a long time ago, and basically some of your black gospel songs,
rhythm, blues, and country.
Right.
It's just a combination. That's what rockabilly is, rock and roll is all about.
Well, we had the, you know, the upbeat, which is explained to me, and probably familiar. You know, when you had your upbeat and your fast songs, what we call it, or whatever, your salvation, or maybe you baptized and everybody got all excited and had your upbeat, and then your weddings, your dedications, and then your new churches, and the births, and one thing or another. Then if you turn the coin over, your blues, you know, would come from sickness and failed marriages, crop disasters, and death. So you either up or down, and that's. But back to your daddy. After he left, he was working at W.T. Grant, Hawking Records, correct?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. What? How long did he do that?
Oh, I guess from about the 48 to about 49, because you know how animated my dad was. I mean, he was just talking 90 to nothing all the time, and that kind of drew the people in, because he would turn on, they'd have the speakers in the store on, and people would come and watch him, you know, play his records and talk and everything, and he got to be so popular that one of the one of the managers of WHBQ heard him and came down, and Dad had always wanted to get on the radio, And so this guy said, well, I think we'll give you a 15-minute spot on WHBQ. And he took that spot, and it went from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour to, I think, I forget how long the show was, maybe 3 hours at night, 3 or 4 hours at night. It jumped pretty fast within a few years.
All right, so as far as you know then, the only station he worked at after he left Grants was WHBQ?
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Actually, they had a band, another guy, the guy that actually discovered Daddy down there, I can't think of his name. His son was also at WHBQ, a news guy, and I cannot think of their name. Maybe Dr. Flynn can help me.
I was trying to think of who you're talking about.
There was he was on the radio, and then his son did the news on Channel 13, but I can't remember his name right now. I'm willing a little bit probably, but he was doing the Red Hot and Blue show because WDIA at that time, they couldn't afford the airtime after dark, and somebody knew that there was a place for that type of music on the radio, and but they couldn't find anybody that could pull it off, and there they found Dewey Phillips down at Grant's record department on that microphone, and they took him down there and put him on there, and like my brother said, it started 15 minutes, and then it went to an hour, 3 hours, and I think it was 8 to midnight for years and years, and also on TV from 3 to 5:30, the first simulcast of a radio show and TV at the same time. Pop Shop was his TV show, and Red Hot and Blue was his radio show.
You notice there, it's going back in time right there. I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the theme song of the Pop Shop was Opus 1. Whether that rings a bell with anybody. So,
He called it Octopus One by the late great Tommy Dorsey.
just happened to have it in there in my record collection.
Oh, that's good.
So,
That's good.
but anyway, you know, the thing that always amazed me is how much everybody was so interested, you know, in your daddy.
Let me tell you, that man's name was Gordon Lighthead.
Lawhead.
Gordon
It
Lawhead.
was Gordon.
And his son was actually on TV too,
Okay.
later on the news.
See, this is for all you folks up there in Virginia and all ones down there in Dodge Smith, down there in Florida that's listening here. We all getting all kinds of history. But this is MPLStudio13.com coming straight to downtown Millington, Tennessee. We're out there trying to find kids that can sing, or anybody that can sing or play the piano, or we got a guitar or anything. So if you know anybody that's got some talent, it's so hard. Everybody can't get on those TVs and do all those things. But ladies and gentlemen, right now we're talking about a legend that still lives in everybody's heart, and we're talking about the famous one and only Dewey Phillips. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, you just don't realize. I got the microphone right now, and I got to tell you something. They had Dick Clark, they had what's that old boy's name, Alan Freed up yonder, and they had Wolfman Jack. But I'm gonna tell you right now, anybody that's got any sense and knows anything about music, it was Dewey Phillips did everything for music in Memphis. And them other guys, they ain't even in the same ballpark. It's just the way everybody I grew up with, that's where we all feel today. That they did so much and never got the credit for it. And that's the problem, and that's one of the reasons I got these kind of kids right here, that they need the recognition that Daddy done so much for so many people, and everybody loved him. And I'm doing too much talking, but I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play one to do his favorite songs right here. I think I'm gonna try anyway. If I can get it stopped long enough. So I ain't very good on this, ladies and gentlemen. Right now we're gonna play one by Pine of Red right here. You ready, Pine of Red? Let's go. We're gonna dig that boogie.
Let's dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie. Now you don't have to know. I'll show you how. Let's dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie.
Feel good.
Let's dig that
Name
boogie.
is William Perry.
Let's dig that boogie. Well, I'll show you how. Get out.
Right there from 1948.
your hole. We gon' dig till we can't dig no more. We gon' dig that boogie. Let's dig that boogie. We gon' dig that boogie, cause I'm gonna show you how. Dig with me now. Two by two, I'll tell you what I want you to do. We're gonna dig that boogie. We're gonna dig that boogie.
How'd I look, Donnie?
We're gonna dig that boogie, cause I'm gonna show you how. Now dig, dig, dig. Dig, dig, dig. Dig, dig, dig. Dig, dig, dig. You don't have to know, I'll show you how.
All right, that was Piano Red doing a little diggy boogie. I was wanting to do his favorite songs right there. He got that 16 beat on the old boogie woogie. There ain't nothing like that mess I got out there right now. But ladies and gentlemen, we on MPL Studio 13.com coming straight out of Mellington, Tennessee. We got Jerry and Randy Phillips, which is Dewey Phillips' little boys. Now you had a brother, Randy. You want to tell us about that?
Well, Michael was our youngest brother, and he like me, you know, he graduated from Alamo High School and then came to Memphis State and got his degree in accounting, got his CPA, and was on the road for a while doing CPA work for different companies. And one afternoon when he was down in Texas, he was just real weak, having a lot of trouble, you know, even getting his suitcase up, and came back to Memphis, and they discovered that he had a rare form of cancer around his colon, and it was real fast spreading, and they just couldn't get to it in time. You know, I mean, it just spread so fast, there wasn't too much they could do about it. Now, I've talked to doctors now that have told me that had this happened now, that, you know, the technology has changed so much that they could have saved him. You know, he had probably a 90% chance of living for a long time, but back then they just couldn't do it. And they did some surgery on him. Of course, they couldn't get all the cancer out. He died in 76. He was only 23.
23, okay. So tell the folks how old you are now.
I'm 63.
63 and
61.
61. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is going worldwide. And if you got any friends, you know anybody, call them up, and then you can listen to Dewey's boys talking about the great legend, their daddy. And he was famous for not only WHBQ, but he also went out and emceed shows. And did y'all ever get to go with him or anything?
Well, when we were very young, Dad used to take us to the station at night, and I guess because I guess he was, you know, as popular as he was always working, and I guess this was one of the ways he could be with us a lot. He would take us to the station, and of course his radio show didn't go off until midnight, and then he'd come dragging home 3 little boys that were all asleep, and just used to just make my mama mad as heck, you know. But that was his way of being with us, you know. He let us get on radio. He let me on. I'll tell this story.
Yeah.
I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and he took me down to the station, and this was probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and he was getting ready. He taught me how to run the board, you know, how to put a record on and play it, and what switches to turn on and off.
Yeah.
And so he was getting ready for a break to go get him something to eat. I think there was like a little Crystal hamburger stand or something right down the street. So he was going to put on this big, what did they call them? The big 38s?
33.
33. The 33 third,
yeah.
Big record. And it had several bands on it. And he said, Randy, I'm going to put this band on and just let it play through. I'm going to go get something to eat and I'll be right back. Well, I got on there, and once Dad left, I had the record playing, and after the first band, I thought I was supposed to pick it up. So I picked it up and just took it off, and there was dead air for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And my mom was listening to it at the time,
Yeah.
and of course, I think she said that I came back over the microphone and said, I said something like, my daddy's gone to get something to eat, you know, and I'm Randy, and I'm this many years old, you know. And I guess I was holding up my fingers to say I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I guess they heard it. I think this Crystal station had Dad's program on at night. And
Yeah.
of course, when Dad heard that, man, he went flying back over to the station and got back on and just carried on, you know, like the beginning, from the beginning, you know. He never got mad at me for doing that because I thought I was doing the right thing.
What about you?
I remember on his TV show on our birthdays or after Christmas, and we had our army suits on or our cowboy suits or
Yeah.
sports stuff. We'd always get to go on the TV show and run around like we were crazy because he played records and talked and had guests on there all the time, and had old Harry, the guy with the mask, that was
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
And I can remember some of that. I was quite young at that time, but
Well,
But
your brother passed away now. Was he older or younger than
he
you?
was
He was the youngest.
Youngest, okay.
He would be 60.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, where do y'all, when you were living in Memphis and your daddy was working at WSBQ, where'd y'all live?
We lived on Perkins Road, 1043 North Perkins at the
Is that
time.
right?
That was, you know, that was a subdivision that was just built right after the war, I guess. And I had a lot of war veterans that moved into that
Is that right?
neighborhood, you know.
1043.
1043 North
You
Perkins.
probably think next week when I go to the doctor that I'm gonna drive at 1043 so I can
It's-
just look at it.
it's still there.
Still
I
got the basketball goal up on
Is that right?
the garage that
Yeah.
all the old Memphis State 1950s players came to our house.
Is that right?
Play
And
ball.
Elvis would come over there, and he'd come over there to hide out so he could rest. I can remember my mother standing on the front porch telling all the neighbors and kids to go on and leave that boy alone. He's got to do a show tonight.
Is that right?
And he was at
What,
that house many
did
times.
you y'all ever spend much time with Elvis or?
A lot of when
When we were
went
young.
to Graceland all the time, swimming. And
Well, I'll tell you what, tell these folks, we got friends out in Tacoma, Washington that listen all the time and in Sacramento. So tell these folks out there, now here's Dewey's, now Dewey, in case you just tuned in later, you think, Dewey was the disc jockey, greatest disc jockey that ever lived, and he's the one that played Elvis Presley's That's All Right, which is the first song that ever went on. These are his two boys right here talking to you. So they got it firsthand. It ain't none of that stuff that I heard that they said. It's firsthand. So tell them a little bit about your association with Elvis.
well, he came to our house all the time, and he'd ride his motorcycle over there. And one of his good friends, Nick Adams, that used to be like Johnny Humaw the Rebel on TV and did a movie with Randy Griffin. They came over to our house a lot when he was in town, and they'd take us motorcycle riding. And, I've been swimming at Grayson, I don't know how many times when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They had two refrigerators out there. One was a freezer that had popsicles and all that stuff in it. And then the refrigerator, his mother, Gladys, said, now you boys, y'all can get anything off these bottom three shelves, but don't y'all mess with that stuff. Because I think it might have been a little Falstaff or bottle of wine up there on those shelves. But
Okay.
we had to run to Graceland.
Yeah.
I've been in his room, and I pulled on that golden jacket that he wore on some album covers, and he used to wear it at some of his concerts. And his mother took that thing off. I was probably 6 years old, and she put it on me, and it draped the floor. But I'll never forget that. And as we got older and we moved to Alamo, we didn't see him that much. At my dad's funeral was like the first time I was ever in awe of Elvis Presley, because when we were younger, it was like your next door neighbor coming over to visit. But everybody asked me what my fondest memory of Elvis Presley was.
Yeah.
At my dad's funeral, he took me and my two brothers to the side, and he said, I may have made it big, boys, but I never made it near as fast without Mr. Dewey Phillips. Yeah. And he never forgot. There were times we had hard times that he helped my mother. And Elvis, he never forgot the people that helped him. Never.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think that'd bring a tear to a glass eye. I don't care who you are, man. You hear all about all the different things, and everybody's not perfect one thing or another, but there was Elvis do something like that. That's really not unexpected for the way that his parents, especially Miss Gladys, raised him. So, what about you? Well, you've been a good story.
Well, I'll tell you, the first time we ever went swimming over at Elvis's house was when he had bought the house at Audubon.
Okay.
My dad, was always doing crazy stuff. Well, one afternoon we were over there swimming, and Dad got on the diving board, and he was going to try to do a big flip off the board. And when he tried to do that, he came down, I don't know whether he hit his head or his leg
His ankle.
or his ankle, but I mean, he went into the water and didn't come up. And of course, Elvis jumped in and got him out, you know.
Yeah.
And so we always thought, well, you know, he saved my dad's life, I guess, that afternoon. And then I can remember the times we went to Graceland, we were just a kid, and Dad would go over there and take us, and he would go back and talk business with Elvis and some other people that were there. And Miss Gladys would always take us back in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I mean, she would feed us cake and ice cream, and you name it, she had it, you know. And she was always good to us there, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I remember mostly about her. She was a nice lady.
So you'd have to say is your association and when your friendship and everything with Elvis and everything was really great, and he was very, very generous. That's so good to hear because it was, after all the years everybody submitted people around and everything, it just does somebody's heart good to know that he was. And that's not unexpected the way a lot of people remember Elvis and things he did. But like he said, if it hadn't been for Mr. Dewey Phillips, there wouldn't have been no Elvis Presley, I guarantee you that. So.
He always called him Mr. Phillips too. He never called him Dewey.
Is that right?
Mr. Phillips till the day he died.
Is that right? I didn't know that. I'd need to hear. But I know that. Yeah.
You know, we all know your dad's personality on radio. Was he that energetic and everything at home, or did he kind of calm down and take care of you, or was he that energetic and
He was
always
energetic
talking?
24
I'd like to
hours
know
a
what
day.
he was really like.
He was energetic 24 hours a day. We always had company. Like when he got off the radio, my mother's job was to raise 3 boys and take care of all of his. After hours, he would call and say, "Well, Elvis and the boys are coming over," and my mother would have food for them ready at midnight. I mean, she worked pretty hard herself, and they always respected her for that. My mother would cook like a big roast and 3 or 4 vegetables and all that. And she's told me many a time that Elvis would whisper in her ear and say, "Miss Dot, can I just have one of your famous ham sandwiches?"
Is that right?
Yeah. He was, and when we were kids, you know, he loved Christmas.
Yeah.
And he gave us things like pinball machines, and pool tables for Christmas. And he was just a really good person. And but my dad, he was energetic. Like if he was awake, he was cutting up day to day and punching us and, you know, kidding around with everybody and called everybody, "Hey, Elvis." And
Yeah. You know, one of the things that when I was around him, he had those leg braces on.
mm-hmm.
Did he have to wear those all the time?
Not really all the time, but if he did a lot of walking, he had to.
Well, the only time like I say, I was around him quite a few times, and he always had them on when I was around, so I really didn't know.
He was in a lot of pain with those legs. He broke both of them in a car wreck.
Right.
And had pins and things in there, and places had one place that wouldn't heal. They had to go to the doctor all the time.
He had what's called osteomyelitis.
Is that the correct name for that?
Yeah, once you get that, it's very hard, especially in that time when we didn't have good antibiotics.
Right.
He had a hole
And it kept draining.
in
Right.
his leg, and of course it drained. He had to keep it plugged up a lot. Took a lot of medicine.
But when he got out of the military, his legs were okay.
Oh, right.
Oh, right. That was
It wasn't
in
until the early
52.
50s when he had that wreck.
That tape you were playing a while ago, that was in 1952 when he was in the VA hospital over on Getwell after he had that wreck, and he had already been on his Red Hot and Blue show about 3 years at that time. And everybody wanted to know, where's Phillips? Even before Elvis, this was when he just played rhythm and blues music. They wanted to know where he was, and so they did a remote there, which somebody told me it was one of the first times they did a remote from WHBQ. And I've got a picture of him laying in the hospital bed, and I think George Klein is running the board.
Was that right?
It looks like him, but it's from the back. I can't tell, but I would think it would probably be. George used to be his gopher when he was in school. He would come to the station, and he'll tell you, he said, I emptied his ashtrays, I fixed his coffee, I got him a Coke. And he said, but he taught me a lot of things. That's what George Klein's a good friend of our family.
Yeah, yeah. We talked to him, and like I say, we're going to have another get-together when we have everybody there, and just, you know, this time this gets around and people get to hear it, so I remember all those stories for one thing, so.
I want to say something.
Yeah, go
Dr.
right ahead.
Flynn, when Daddy would never mow the yard like he was supposed to. My mother, that's all he had to do was keep our yard mowed, which wasn't really that big over on Perkins. Well, she was on him and on him. So one night he came home from his radio show, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, he cranked up the lawnmower and mowed the yard.
Is that right?
Yes. And he was just cutting up, carrying on, and the neighbors called the police on him.
Is that right?
From mowing the yard.
For having that lawnmower going on after midnight, and he got on his radio show, and he gave him a what for the next day.
Is that right?
Yeah, he sure did.
Somebody was telling me, I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna play another one of his favorite songs right here. This Big JoJo Turner, lipstick, powder, and paint.
Lipstick, powder and paint, lipstick, powder and paint, lipstick.
I just got the pictures all into it.
Now here's you ain't. There goes my baby up a tree, the giggling and the wiggling the toes in me. Let me put my glasses on, and had such fun since she's been gone. Lipstick,
Ain't nothing like that out there today, I guarantee you.
powder and paint, lipstick, powder and paint. Now
You can understand those words.
here's you ain't. Hound dog scratching fleas, looking like she's in love with me. Licks my hand everywhere I go. I wish my baby loved me so. Lipstick, powder and paint, lipstick, powder and paint, lipstick, powder and paint. Now here's you is, here's you ain't. A lipstick, powder and paint. A lipstick, powder and paint.
Yeah, I called in on my birthday, one of the shows one time, and asked him to play the Elvis record for me, and he started playing it, and he started cutting in on it. Anybody want to buy a duck?
Yeah.
The flock up and flew over then, and I called him and said something to him about it, and he said, well, my son, he needs to learn how to ride that bicycle I got him for his birthday, and let me run this radio show.
Well, that's great right there. So, all right, we got a couple more things. When Dr. Flynn, did you said if you got a question you'd like to chime in with as your experience with Dewey and tell everybody out there in the whole wide world about it?
I just remember hearing him come on. And when he came on, I think it was 9 to 9:15, something like that. Everybody would stop what they were doing and turn him on and listen to it. And the interesting thing, I think he was the first that we had ever heard that would talk through the record. And we liked it. And sometimes I hear records just like Otis was mentioning JoJo Turner. I mean, that's what I thought the guy's name was. Till right now, and when he said that, I said, "Oh, that's Big Joe Turner." You know, so he really made his mark on a lot of things. And some records I hear, if I don't hear him saying things in the middle of it, it doesn't sound like the right record.
Well, I don't.
Did any of the tapes of him survive?
Some did. We used to have a lot more tapes than we have in our old country house in Johnson's Grove, Tennessee, and unfortunately back in '68 that house burned.
Wasn't there
We
a
lost
fire?
so
Yeah.
much. And I was telling Otis that they used to have a lot of his TV show tapes of his old TV shows, and from what I understand, those tapes were so expensive that they just, instead of
Recorded over?
they recorded over them, and we lost a lot of those old shows.
I think I've got some of his shows out at the WHBP transmitter that are in storage. I think.
Oh, if you do, I would give anything
Yeah.
to hear something.
Yeah.
Because WHBQ actually, the TV did a People's Places and Things spot on their news, and it used to last like 5 minutes, where they had to do 30 minutes on Dad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but they could find very little.
I think I've got some out there.
If you do, I would love to have some. But we had 8mm movies of he was a great basketball fan. He had that 53.
57 Memphis
Yeah,
State team
whatever with,
that lost in the
lost in
tournament
the
to,
national
what
championship.
team was that?
Bradley.
Bradley. Lost to Bradley.
Orby Arnold and all
We had those
people.
boys playing basketball over their house, you know. And, as a matter of fact, Jerry, I've got that tape. Doris, my wife Doris, put that on CD. And I've got the tape. I know it's two of the Memphis State basketball players, and we were little kids. And I remember Sissy that used to live across the street. She was over there, a little girl, a little older than us. She used to kind of babysit us.
Yeah.
And we were all playing basketball. Mr. Woods, Chuck Woods was over there, and Francis. And, we were cooking barbecue. Mama was cooking barbecue, and we were playing basketball on the old basketball goal. That was on Perkins Road. And I've got about maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Is that right?
It's color film, but it's no sound. There's no sound to it.
Yeah. What were some of your neighbors or some of your friends around there that y'all lived around when you were on Perkins, if you remember any of those?
Well, there were the Burkles who lived right next to us. I remember them. They had a little girl named Anna Louise. Gosh, hadn't heard from them since we were little kids. Across the street there were the Yearwoods. Sissy was the girl that used to babysit us. She was probably a couple of years older than I am. And Chuck and Francis Woods, who lived next door to them, to the left if you were facing their house. And there were the Andersons that lived about 3 houses down, who had a son. They had a boy that was a year older than me. We got to be real good friends. They had I think they had a daughter named Kathy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then down the street on the other side were the Farmers, a boy named Jimmy Farmer. He was about a year or two older than I was. And we were all neighborhood friends. We'd do things together, get out and play a little baseball out in the street, and ride bikes together when we were kids, and so forth.
Well, did Dewey have a relationship or friends with any more of the disc jockeys? There was like I know there was Jack Parnell. There was I can't even think of Sleepy Eyed John was over at WHHM and
Wayne Martindale.
Wink Martindale.
Dave Brown.
Did they stay in contact with each other and call or anything like that? Or
Not really.
They
Not
didn't?
that I remember.
Yeah.
They it's like Gordon Law had said, you know, all the disc jockeys at that time had perfect diction, and we're going to play this record. And I said Dewey had his own way of doing things, and plus he was pretty popular in the Mid-South as far as that thing would go, and he was also syndicated in those scrapbooks we have over on the table. There's a place in New Jersey that his show went to, and some places out west, and I was always wondering if they had any of his tapes.
Yeah. Well, hey Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Can you turn loose, get on this microphone for a minute and tell the folks out there in the world, tell them about your time at, you was going to Nashville, I think it was. Everybody loved to hear that story.
I can't remember what year it was. It must have been in 61 or 2. And was I-40 open in 61 or 62? I don't believe it was, because some reason we went up old 70. And then Dewey had been, his career in Memphis had wound down, and he'd been in Millington. And we were going up to see somebody in a recording studio that he knew up there, because he knew people everywhere. And we left Memphis, you know, we're probably going to leave at 7, because, you know, your dad, we probably left at 9, 9:30. And every small town we'd get to, we would stop, get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, whatever. And we'd go in these little small town cafes. And you would have thought that we'd have had John Wayne or Elvis, because people in those little small towns saw Dewey as there was an idol, and they'd never seen him, and they'd never had a chance to meet him. They'd heard of him, whatever. But I was so amazed that even at the twilight of his career, how well he would be received in those small towns up and down 70 toward Nashville. We finally got into Nashville probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and people we were going to see were at the recording studio. I wish I'd have known then to have made a mental note of who these people were and what we went for. But it was a fairly important meeting, and they met for a while, and then we got to started back, and Dewey was elated at the success he'd had at going to that meeting. But we would go, talking about basketball, I had gone several times with him. There was a kid playing at Raymer, and I can't remember the kid's name, but he was an outstanding basketball player, and I think Dewey was probably trying to help recruit him from the University of Memphis. Otis, do you remember did the kid from Raymer ever play for the University of Memphis?
Well, you talking about
Mickey
Jimmy
or
Horton?
Raymer, yeah.
Horton? Is it Jimmy Horton?
You know, I wish I could remember the name, but Dewey was
There was a
really
Jimmy Horton that did play for Memphis.
from Mickey or from Raymer?
I
I
don't
think
know.
he was from
Yeah, he's from
Kingsbury. Was he?
No, this
Hey.
kid was from Mickey or Raymer, and we went to see Mickey and Raymer play in a regional tournament up there.
I know it was Horton, I'll tell you why, because they beat us in the regional tournament.
Okay.
James Horton.
And it might have been it, but anyway, we walked into that gym, and here again, the attention of that little gym, because you imagine those gyms in those days, was all on Dewey Phillips, because there was Dewey Phillips. And of course, I'd been around him a lot, and I wasn't quite as much in as all as they were, but I was in all that they were in all of Dewey, who was just a good, regular old guy, you know. Dewey, as the doc mentioned, Dewey never was not off the air.
When
He
you-
was on the air from the time he woke up.
When you were growing up, did you realize what a star he was?
No.
Or was he just dad?
He was just dad until I got older.
Uh-huh.
There were times when maybe he'd take us to the station or he'd take us out somewhere and we'd be downtown and we'd be maybe walking down the sidewalk and people would start gathering around and talking to him. And I can remember some times when there might be 15, 20, 30 people that would stop and just start shooting bull with him, you know, and talking about different things. And I thought,
But that was the interesting thing about it. He didn't shun those people. He wanted to talk to them. He
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
Oh,
engage
yeah,
them.
he loved it. We stopped at those little cafes because Dewey wanted to be with people. He wanted to.
Good people.
He
That's what
wanted to
he
meet
called
those,
it.
that's right, he
Everybody
wanted to meet
called
those
them good
people. Yeah, and we'd get a cup of coffee and he'd talk with them. And not like some celebrities, you go in and get the coffee, I'll wait in the car. You know, when Dewey would go in because he really liked people. And that was the Adamsville of the Dewey Phillips, that he was just a good old down-to-earth guy, but he was on the air. When he woke up, he was on the air.
Now, the only time that he taped his shows was when he went to Adamsville on Friday nights for basketball games.
We went to several of them.
And he actually, a picture in one of the scrapbooks, he's got his arm around Buford Pusser. He was an all-state basketball player for Adamsville, and he recruited Buford Pusser to play basketball at Memphis State, but Buford didn't go to college. He joined the Marine Corps. But during the state finals, Buford wasn't able to play because he had the mumps.
Well, there was a referee that went with us a couple of ball games.
Now, that was his cousin, Jim Murdoch,
He
Big
went with us,
Jim.
he would go with us to those ball games.
Big Jim, he was well known in
Yeah.
the West Tennessee
Yeah,
area.
and he really was a good basketball fan, and knew basketball, but Dewey knew basketball.
Oh,
He knew
Dewey played at
basketball.
Adamsville.
He knew basketball, and he really knew it well. Now, y'all had a relative that lived in Millington. Was it
That was his sister,
Miss
Betty.
Cunningham?
Betty,
Betty. No,
No.
that was his aunt or his cousin, Cunningham.
Yeah,
Yeah, but his sister and her husband were also stationed in Millington
during that time?
during 2 or 3 different times.
Winningham, Miss Winningham.
Winningham,
Miss Winningham, yeah. She was a relative there.
Yeah, now that was Jim Murdoch, the referee you're
Right.
talking about. That was his wife, and that was Daddy's cousin.
Oh, okay. See, the Winninghams had lived in Millington all of our life, and we never knew that they were related to Dewey till Dewey became a part of the Millington scene. And then, because I had known the Winninghams, everybody known me the Winninghams, so they were right there close to the church. You know, the Dewey's funeral was at the Methodist Church.
Well, actually, it was at the Memphis Funeral Home on Poplar, but on Union, and then we had another service at Crump, Tennessee, where he's buried.
Okay. Okay, it was at Crump, Tennessee, that's right. Well, I know the Winninghams were relatives, and he would stay out there some. If he were something late at night and he didn't want to drive back to Memphis, he'd go stay over there.
Mhm.
But I don't think I remember meeting the sister that lived there.
Yeah, she's the only sister he has living. She
Wow.
lives in Florida.
And so they were stationed there. at the
There,
period of
yeah,
time?
he had
was
a
career Navy.
Career Navy, and he was here
Okay.
2 or 3 different times.
Oh, yeah, that's unique. Well, when Dewey first came to Millington, of course, our little radio station was formed because the local merchants couldn't really afford Memphis radio time because it was so expensive, and they certainly couldn't afford the press cemetery or the commercial appeal, and we only had a weekly paper. But the men who founded the radio station founded it for the ability for them to be able to buy advertising at a reasonable rate and advertise Millington businesses. And they've had disc jockeys of some acclaim, but nothing of the acclaim that Dewey bought. And when Dewey came out to Millington, it raised the stock and certainly raised the meter they used to raise your radio stations. What was they called in those days?
They had Arbitrons.
Yeah, okay. It really got that up, and then after Dewey, of course, Harlan Hill became part of the station, and and then George Clown became part of the station. But Dewey was for Millington Radio what he was for Elvis. He put Millington Radio to a brighter light and to a bigger audience because it gave the station some true identity that it did exist, and it was a Bible station because it had Dewey Phillips. And of all the disc jockeys that came and went through Millington radio station over the years, it was always Dewey Phillips was there at one time. And,
Appreciate that.
It really was.
How many years has it been since he's been on the air?
60. He died in 68.
60, probably 67,
60.
maybe.
No,
66,
about 66, I think, was the last time he was on the air.
Well, you know, he was at, like I said, he was at Millington in what was not the twilight of the music, but he was there when rock and roll and rhythm and blues was. I always thought Dewey was more rhythm and blues because he got his start with rhythm and blues.
It's pretty good, DJ, being remembered 47 years later.
That's what. That's
yeah.
what.
He made a mark.
He did.
Yeah, I had over the years, Dewey came in one day and he had 7 or 8 Polaroid photographs of Lisa Marie as a baby, and he gave them to me. Of course, I had no idea what those were worth, and I had them stuck in a display case in the furniture store there. And people would come in, let me have that. I'm sure you can have it. And over the years, you know, and Dewey was in a picture, and there was Lisa Marie, and there was, but all the things and all the times of Millington's history, Dewey's one of the brightest spots in the history of Millington.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell we kind of do things around here like we enjoy them and have a big time. And we're so honored to have these wonderful gentlemen come here, but we're about to run out of time. Don't want to, but the time's about up right here. So what we're gonna do for you right now, we're gonna have to get out of that clock on the wall that says we're gonna have to check out. Now, it ain't cause we want to, but you can't, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So we're gonna let the Ravens get us out of here. For all of you that don't know, this is Mr. Dewey Phillips' theme song. Appropriate is what I've used ever since I've been doing this show, what I will continue to use, not only as a tribute to a wonderful person, but the wonderful music. And I don't think anybody can ever say enough about the legendary Dewey. These two of the finest kids that I've met, and their family and everything. So it's been an honor.
It's been our pleasure. We appreciate you acknowledging Daddy Otis.
Thank you so
I
much.
just thank y'all so much for coming out here, and we'll let you in on a little secret. I'm gonna go up there, I'm going up and I'm gonna film go up the graveyard. I'm going to 1043 Perkins, and I'm gonna take some pictures, but ain't nothing left there but a tin can.
Oh, the house is still there. I was there about a week ago. I drive by that neighborhood because I love that neighborhood so much, and it's still a nice, stable neighborhood.
Well, I'm sure
And,
it is.
the house is still there. I think our original basketball goal is still up there on the garage door. You know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is gonna be about it for right now, but we're gonna see what we can do, or I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna keep pumping around here, so I'm gonna stay right with Dewey. Got these boys to help me, and we got some more people. We're gonna do another show for you, so we're gonna get out of here. God bless you for listening, and we'll always love Dewey. Everybody that I've ever known, everybody loved him, so we just thank God for him. So we're gonna see you and talk to you later. So y'all stay with us on MPLstudio13.com, downtown Millington, Tennessee. Thank you. Bye.
And you know how I feel if you ever had a gal like me.
Tell them about it, boy.
Let me hear from you, baby. been myself, yeah, since you went away. When you were here with me, baby, I took you for a square, and I'm biting off my nails and pulling out my hair.